Picture this. You've made it to the final round of a data science interview. You're sitting across from a product manager, and they ask a deceptively simple question. Can you explain what a p-value is in plain English? It's the exact moment where most candidates freeze. They panic, fall back on their statistics textbooks, and start rambling about integrals and distributions. Within seconds, the interviewer's eyes glaze over. We are going to fix that. Today, we're building a foolproof 4-part framework to explain p-values accurately without overwhelming your audience. You already know the math behind the concept. We aren't here to teach you the formula. We are focusing purely on the communication strategy. Modern data teams rely on practitioners who can guide stakeholders through the logic behind the results. Clear communication ensures your technical work leads to actual business impact. Step 1. Do not say the word p-value. Instead, begin your explanation by intentionally establishing a baseline. You need to introduce the concept of the null hypothesis first. Define it strictly as the assumption that there is no effect or no difference in whatever experiment you're running. Give them a concrete example. Tell them to imagine you are testing a new medical treatment, and your null hypothesis states that this new drug's performance is exactly equal to a standard placebo. You do this because if you start with the probability metrics right away, there is no conceptual foundation for those numbers to attach to. Setting this clear baseline creates a mental anchor. Once your interviewer understands what no difference looks like, the math we introduce next will be much easier to digest. Now, let's move on to step 2. We'll bridge the gap between statistical theory and reality using a classic coin flip analogy. Ask the interviewer to picture flipping a coin 10 times. If the coin is fair, expect heads about 5 times. But what if you get 9 heads? Suddenly, you wonder if that coin is biased. This is where you bring in the p-value. Tell them it's the tool we use to assess how unusual that 9-head result is, under the strict assumption that the coin was fair to begin with. This specific analogy works because it sidesteps abstract theory. It taps directly into an everyday sense of probability that anyone can understand intuitively. With that intuition established, we reach step 3. This is where we finally introduce the actual math, starting with the basic scale. Explain that a p-value is always a number between 0 and 1. Then introduce the threshold. If the p-value is less than 0.05, our observed data is highly unlikely under the null hypothesis. Therefore, we reject that baseline assumption. A quick warning here. Do not mention secondary concepts like alpha levels or confidence intervals. Adding more statistical jargon right now will only derail the conversation. By giving the hiring manager a single concrete threshold to focus on, you empower them to understand the mechanics of data-driven decision-making without needing a math degree. And for our 4th and final step, define the practical limits of a p-value by stating what it is not. Start by locking in the correct definition. Explain that it measures the strength of the evidence against the null hypothesis. A p-value of 0.03 means there is a 3% chance of observing this data if the null hypothesis is completely true. Next, you must address the most common trap. Clearly state it does not measure the probability that the null hypothesis itself is true or false. Finish up by adding one final caveat. Remind them that a low p-value does not indicate the actual size of an effect, nor does it guarantee that the result has practical, real-world importance. Proactively addressing these misconceptions shows the hiring manager that you possess seasoned, practical judgment, rather than just textbook memorization. Let's review the steps. Define the null hypothesis, use the coin flip analogy, explain the 0.05 threshold, and clarify the limits. While your competitors are busy sketching out probability distributions on a whiteboard and confusing the room, you are telling a clear, logical story. Take a screenshot of this framework right now and practice delivering the script out loud until it becomes second nature. Mastering this framework allows leadership to move forward with your findings. It demonstrates a capacity to align rigorous math with the practical needs of the company.